My name is Desiree. I am the Executive Director of Penticton and Area Overdose Prevention Society. We go by POPs for short, and we're a peer-led organization in the community, and we have done overdose prevention services, outreach services, and we also run the temporary winter shelter up on Dawson Ave.
I'm currently living in a homeless state, but currently living in a local shelter because of past experiences. And I'm here to share my feelings about the benefits of having these tiny homes being built or put into place. It'd be a great benefit for the community and for those that are still out on the street. And that being said, having something like that for an individual that's been homeless, being in a shelter is one thing, which is wonderful, don't get me wrong, but you're still amongst a bunch of other people that A, may be using, or B, you're sleeping in close quarters, and there's no real, you can't really relax properly, is what I'm trying to say. When you have your own home, you can close the door behind you at the end of the day, and everything's outside. You can relax, you can concentrate on what you got done, what you have to do for the following day. But when you have numerous other people around you, you can't concentrate. So having these little homes is just a huge, huge, wonderful idea. And it definitely, it's going to be a benefit. It's going to reduce so many things within the community. Less homelessness, less crime. People can concentrate on getting their lives back. And yeah, I'd definitely go with this.
The tiny homes that were just put in Kelowna were built at our neighbours. And so, remember, we saw all of those being built.
Yes,
and you guys got to get like kind of a sneak peek of like what the format is for the tiny homes. So like,
oh yeah,
you know, and everyone was saying, was like, is that for here? Is that for here?
Yeah.
How did you feel about being able to see what that could look like?
Well, not at the time of seeing them being built, I didn't know that was what they were for. I just thought they were out for like little security shacks for different job sites, etc. And now knowing that, it's like, wow, yeah, for even for a couple or a single person, it's a great size.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a perfect size. You got. I mean, I only need 1 square foot to turn around, right? Yeah. So I mean, all that extra footage is great. But yeah, that's a wonderful idea. Definitely.
Now I'm nervous. I don't know what else. Yeah. Okay. So, I think is there things that you can pinpoint that, getting into this kind of unit, where you pay rent and you have your own space, like what would be the benefits you would see in the long term for yourself? Like what are the goals that you could finally work on once you get in one of those?
Having the privacy of my own little space, being able to concentrate, and not having all the interference going on around me throughout all hours of the night. You can't concentrate. You can't get comfortable. Don't get me wrong. It's not that bad. I mean, it could be a hell of a lot worse. I've been on the streets, so it's a hell of a lot worse. So, but having that space, I mean, it's your private space. You can relax. You can just let go. And you don't have to worry about somebody else coming up behind you or around you or disturbing you, For me, it's a huge stepping stone for me to be able to get back. It's like a second chance, getting back into society, being a productive member of society where I used to be and where I want to be again, And so having something like this is crucial to anybody's survival.
How does it feel for Desiree to say that you would be one of the candidates?
Oh, awesome! Great. I would gladly accept that. I'd be very happy to.
The trust, the confidence, like the relationship that you built is quite touching.
Huge. Yeah, I have a lot of admiration and respect for this lady, and she's gone above and beyond for a lot of people, and that needs to be recognized. And she's bent over backwards, and she's got a lot to deal with, I don't know how you do it, because you deal with so many different personalities, and it's like, oh my God, I sit there and watch it. Wow, Des, yeah, good on you, girl.
I think the difference though is that I get to go home And when I'm there, yeah, I deal with those things, but you deal with those things 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
You know, you are in a large space with 40 other people on beds. Like, you don't have privacy right now.
No.
And so, you know, you've been with us for, you know, since we opened. And you've really, I want to point out the stabilization piece has been beautiful to watch over the last year.
Oh.
And it's been really nice to see you be part of the community we've built in the shelter.
Thank you.
And I think that you would be a part of building a community in a new facility, because in a new facility that community has yet to be built, and you've helped build it somewhere else. And I think that it would be really beautiful to see be built there.
You know, I'd be honored to do that. You know, that'd be great.
And Desiree, how does it feel to get that admiration and see someone actually see your work and what you try to build in, day out?
I'm not gonna lie. I mean, you know, when people say nice things about me and the work I do, it makes me feel good. Like, you know, you know, nobody gets into social services to make money. You know, we do it out of love and care for our community members. And so to me, it gives me warm fuzzies, but also it's what we do because we want to be a community. We want to make sure that our community members are taken care of. And I really see everyone in this community, from, you know, the teachers to the seniors to the children to the unhoused population. We're all vital members of a community, and we all have to foster growth and strengthen each other, and we all have to teach each other things. I feel like as much as I've taught others in my role, I feel like I've been given so much more from the people that I serve in our shelter. So I think it's like this reciprocal kind of intertwined thing. So while it does feel good to get admiration,
yeah, well, deserve it.
I also think that it's just something that we all need to like show each other and show love and compassion towards each other too. Yeah. You know, everybody's journey of wellness looks different, and it doesn't always look neat and pretty and tied in a bow. But when I see someone who comes to our doorsteps and they're angry, and, you know, they have all these traumas and they maybe have some behaviors surrounding it, when I see that person take steps and, you know, they're not angry anymore, and they're putting work in, and they're showing up to appointments, and they're showing up and they're being accountable when they make mistakes, because we all make mistakes, and we will all continue to make mistakes, and we'll all have kind of back steps throughout our journey. But what I love to see, and when I know someone is ready to take the next step in housing, it's because they're taking accountability for those mistakes and they're growing from them. Because we're all human beings. We all make mistakes. We all get angry, and we all, you know, we all can sometimes not be our best selves. But what I see in others in our shelter is that they're striving to be a better person every day. Every day they're trying to strive to be a better person.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
I've noticed that myself. You know, as difficult as it can be some days, I just keep reminding myself, well, you know what? We're all in this together, and everybody has to put their whatever they can put into this to be fruitful for everybody. And if it's going to be a better community, we all have to pitch in. We all have to do our part, and that's from the top to the bottom, everybody included.
Yeah. I mean, if you had to talk to, say, other people who might be in this project with you, from a neighborly perspective, what kind of message would you want to tell them? Do you think the tiny homes community, what would you love for it to become and be able to kind of grow into?
Well, I would definitely want it to be a quiet, respectful area. Respect your neighbor. If you need help with something, come and ask. Don't just help yourself to what's not yours. It's just that common decency, a little bit of courtesy can go a long ways. You know, but just respect your surroundings. If you want, treat people how you want to be treated. You know, if you don't want anybody to disrespect your housing area, or you know, or your little yard, whatever it may be, you know, then you tell them how you feel. You know, but have respectful conversations, and keep it polite. Keep it respectful.
And I think you do a beautiful job of that at the shelter too, because one of the things you always do is when someone is being, having a bad day and being disrespectful to a staff member, you're always the first one to stand up and say, like, hey, if you have an issue, talk to them nicely about it. You don't have to be rude. And people do change. When you say that to someone and you remind them of those things, they do change the way they speak to staff. I've seen it before. You're a very strong presence in showing respect there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's cool. Thank you.
Is this the kind of person you would like in the tiny homes project?
Yeah, I would. Like, I think, you know, has come a long way from once he started with us. And I think that's the point of the tiny homes, is to keep building on because we can, being in the infrastructure we have in a shelter, be it our shelter or Compass or any other shelter, it's you're going to hit a point where you can't go any further, you know, because of the infrastructure. The idea of the tiny homes is we build on those successes. You have more integrated case management at the tiny homes, where you're going to still be followed by supports. You're going to have on-site supports. You're going to have other agencies coming. And it's really going to take someone to that next step that you just can't get to in shelter. You know, we can do a lot of work in stabilization in shelters, but we can't get to that next step of the continuum of wellness.
Yeah.
And I think what's beautiful about projects like the tiny homes, where you have individual kind of units and stuff, is you're going to have people that struggle in different areas. You might have someone who is kind of like getting to that next step in their wellness journey, and they haven't been able to you know, stop using street drugs. But if they had their tiny home, they could engage in oat and methadone or all those therapies and really get them to that next stage.
Yeah.
And I think it's really difficult when you're in a facility with 40 complex individuals who are all trying to stabilize at the same time without having separation of each other. It's really hard to get to that next stage.
Yeah, you're right. It definitely is. But having that next stage, like these tiny homes, a lot of people, we deal with a lot of mental incapacities, you know. I have my own that I deal with, and you have to weigh things out with people, you know. So if an individual has his own tiny home, it's a really strong structured start for an individual to have that space, to be able to, if he's upset, he can go into his little structured, his tiny home and shut everybody out. You know, if he's battling with his own medical conditions, whatever it may be, whatever disability he or she has, okay? That is a huge difference. It's like being in a shelter, I've got people within feet of me. So I get upset with the guy beside me, and I don't know him that well, and he doesn't know me that well, and now I'm sleeping with one eye open. You know, it can be that situation. Thankfully, you know, the shelter here is it's really good, actually. I've been in a lot worse. And, you know, no disrespect to the other shelters, but throughout my childhood, this has been a wonderful place to be in, actually. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. So, thanks again for being able to meet with me and talk about this tiny homes project. It was nice to hear, especially when you're talking to Desiree, about what kind of community you wanted to create for, I guess, like the local businesses and like the Wiltse community for this proposed site. Some of them have been a little bit, I would say, fearful or maybe concerned is a better word. What kind of things would you say to, say, the Wiltse community to maybe bring the temperature down or kind of help their concerns?
I would say just give it a chance. I mean, like I said earlier, we're all in this together. You know, we all bleed the same color, which is red. And if we're going to build a strong community, we got to give people a chance. Everybody wants to have a better way of life. Nobody wants to be on the street. There's a lot of intelligent people I've met being on the street that are well-educated people. Something's happened in their life and it's set them back in a bad way, and they end up losing everything. It's not easy. I've been through that a few times in my life. I've lost everything. And having to start from scratch, that's not easy. But then being kicked out onto the street when it's like, I haven't done anything to cause that, yeah, that weighs pretty heavy on me. And a lot of people don't understand that. They don't take that into consideration of, hey, like, look, you can put it by hands. You can't judge me, for one. You haven't walked a mile in my shoes. You don't know my whole story. But why not take the time to say, hey, do you mind telling me what your situation is? Why are you here? And what has caused you to be here, right? Stuff like that. Like, businesses don't have anything to worry about. You got to give it a chance. I mean, I know after I got into the shelter, there was a couple of businesses that were on edge about us being there, but you know, we're human just like them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't wish it upon anybody to have to be homeless, but I'm telling you, it's an eye opener.
For sure.
You know,
Like you said, walk a mile in your shoes. Can you help us walk?
what I meant by that was like, you don't know my story, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, I was kicked out onto the street. I was a friend of mine and myself, God rest his soul, passed away, young guy. We were renting a motel room together, and he passed away, and I ended up packing up all his stuff for him because his parents were coming, and then I was told by the motel owners that, okay, tomorrow we're going to move you into another unit. Perfect, great, wonderful. And I didn't have to worry about that. And the next morning, boom, I got kicked out into the street, just like that. I'm like, ah. So I was on the street for quite a while, and when people walk by, and when you're homeless and people walk by and they don't know who I am, you can see it on their faces. They've all automatically got you categorized. Okay, you know, I just say, you know, a lot of times I try not to be rude, but I was like, when they're staring at me, they're like, take a picture, it lasts longer. You know, say something like that. Just kind of back off a little bit. You know, people like have a little bit more compassion for those that are down and out and trying to get back on their feet.
Yeah.
Not everybody wants to be out there. There's only the odd one or two that like to be out there, but majority of us, no, they don't want to be out there.
Where do you want to be? Like, say, 5 years from now.
I'm going to be traveling the world, buddy.
What are your, like, well, we talked about it with Desiree. It's like having those goals and seeing that person is motivated. What are you motivated for?
What am I motivated for? I'm motivated to be back into a position where I had before, and having my own place, having my own setup, having my vehicle back again, my own house, and I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Most definitely. But I need that stepping stone.
Yeah.
And these tiny homes are a great stepping stone.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I mean, I look forward to it, to be able to, you know, if I'm chosen to have one of these units, I'd be honored just to have one of them. Because I can go in there, close the door behind me, and be kind of like, I can shut the world out.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, you know, take that deep breath and relax, and you don't have to worry about anybody coming up, you know, around you, and you do what you want, you know?
I mean, I can't begin to get on that level of living in a shelter. I lived in a dorm for a while, so I know the close proximity, but again, nothing close.
No, I mean, if you live in an environment like that with a bunch of people, you get a little bit of a taste of what it would be like. But when people are coming in off the street, you know, it's not easy. It's to be able to come into the shelter here and, oh man, to be fed and shower and shave and look presentable, and, you know, not like when I was on the streets. Like, I mean, I couldn't shower for 2 weeks at a time. It's gross. It's disgusting. You know, I mean, for anybody, nobody like, and from, you know, the people, a lot of wonderful people I've met on the streets, you know, say they have the same mentality I do when they think like they don't want to be there. You know, something unfortunate has happened to them previously that's caused them to be there, whether it be, I don't know, for a bad example, forgive me for this, but a slumlord, for example, that, you know, they're only in it for the money, and I've experienced that myself, where a landlord just was in it for the money, and I got in there, within 2 days, I was getting harassed, paying my rent, paying my damage deposit, stuff like that, and getting harassed, so I quickly figured out this individual was just in it for the money, right? You know, stuff like that happens, and people don't realize that, you know, I didn't choose to be homeless, okay? Somebody else chose for me, you know? So that's what happened to me.
How would you describe that look that people...
It's heart-wrenching, it's heartbreaking. I've lost a lot of friends that lived on the streets from overdose and you know, other accidents, stuff like that. And like I said, nobody wants to be out there. And you get, a person can, I deal with depression and anxiety, and PTSD myself, okay? Now, being out on the street, well, that just, it's huge. It's that much more added to it. I mean, I could feel the same feelings when I'm in my own home, right? But at least it's more, I can relax a bit more and deal with it more. But when you're out on the streets, there's so many other things you have to worry about. Well, you know, I hate to bring this up, but I mean, it's the vigilantes that I hear about. That was something we had to worry about when we were out in the streets. Well, I've heard some pretty horrible things that have happened to some of the people I know, and which is like, wow, what, why? What is the sense in that? There's no sense whatsoever in that. Like, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
Why make it that much more worse for that individual? Can't you see we're down and out already?
Yeah.
You know.
It's like, sorry to cut you off,
okay.
but
No,
the
it's okay.
idea of like, if we just scare people enough about being homeless, they won't want to be homeless, and it's like, again, it's kind of a fear tactic. I think shame, I don't think is a good a motivator.
No, it's not a good motivator at all, and it just adds more fear.
Yeah.
You know, you adds more distrust. You lose trust for other people, where you're trying to gain that back. Okay, we all need to trust somebody. Okay, if you can't trust anybody, and you feel so alone when you're out there. Okay, it's so hard to, mind you, I got really good at building cardboard condos. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
But I try to add a little bit of humor there.
Yeah.
But it's just, everybody looks at you with, like, you know, they got a look on their face. You can see it. It's all over them. You know, and I'm just like, wow. You know, I haven't walked a mile in my shoes, so please don't judge a person when they're out in the street. They're going through enough.
How would you want people to look at you?
As a fellow human being, a person that bleeds the same color they do. You know, yeah. You know, treat people how you want to be treated. It's that simple.
So the tiny homes, that would be a way, like, of helping get you to your next step.
Definitely, most definitely, yeah. That would be a huge step for a lot of people. You know, is that structure right there and that step. It's huge for a person to be able to relax and have their own little space, okay, and not have to worry about the outside world for those certain number of hours until they have to go back out and the next day and and do whatever it is they need to do. You can concentrate more when you have better sleeps. Okay, you got your own little space. You can sleep better. You do what you need to do.
For sure.
Right. But when you're in a shelter, it's wonderful. It's a great stepping stone, and I tell you, I'm very thankful for it. And Desiree's been fantastic, and the staff has been wonderful too. You know, it's not easy for them to have to deal with so many different emotions and stuff like that from different individuals, especially the number of people that they're dealing with. That's a lot.
Well, something I think about is there's the news stories about tiny homes. We're never interviewing, we're never asking people who are unhoused, like what they want. It's always, I think there's that privilege aspect of who gets to speak on this discussion. Often we don't ask people on the streets what they want or what they need. It's kind of this, I know what's best for them, and do it like that. How would you say, as someone who hasn't had that experience of walking in your shoes, but as someone who wants to, how can I help and support
Going out there.
people going through the same thing?
Yeah, going out there is what you just said. You started to say going out there and talking to them. Like, I mean, so many people that I've had the pleasure of meeting throughout my travels and being homeless are very respectful people. They're very thankful when people show up and they give food or they give some clothing, something like that. Very respectful, very thankful for what's being given to them for free. I mean, I've never once seen anybody go after somebody showing a kindness to them and being disrespectful about it. Not once. And I've seen it many times. People have reached out and brought this or brought that, food or clothing, you know, whatever it may be. And that's what we need. I mean, if we're going to build a community and help people move forward, we just got to keep that attitude. Okay, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And it's have people go there, talk to people that are homeless. You know, that people want to speak. You know, they want to say, hey, no, I mean, and I tell you, like I said, there's a lot of smart people out there. You know, a lot of well-educated people. I'm college educated myself, and having to be in this position is very humbling. I'm ashamed of myself as well when you know I shouldn't be, but because I didn't put myself in this position. You know, where I was renting did, but fine, so be it. I mean, I have my disabilities, my crutches, and my addictions. But that being said, just reach out and ask, because if you don't know, you can't assume something like that. You can't take the step forward and say, okay, I don't know this person. I haven't gone to give him like 15 minutes of my time to just talk to him or her and say, what is it you think you need, or what is it that the community is lacking that would help you, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And these tiny homes is a great step.
Yeah.
It's a huge step, yeah, for bettering people's lives.
I'm hopeful of this. These conversations, your humanity, it helps. It helps me do the work I need, and hopefully it's going to help people be able to try to help others. So
Yeah.
but this is huge, and I just want to thank you.
Well, thank you very much for having me here. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Right on.
Well, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
I think I want to get on a topic that I think is on a lot of people's minds, especially when people are conceptualizing wet and dry shelters. What is the difference, and why does it matter?
You know, I really dislike the terms wet and dry when we're talking about housing, especially on a continuum. You know, I myself am a person in recovery, and I was abstinent for many, many years. My house wasn't even a dry house because I had people in my life that consumed substances, mostly alcohol. So the idea that we need to have something where there's no substances present in order for people to be well is actually unrealistic, because you know there's substances throughout our life that we have to kind of reason with and kind of learn to navigate. As a person who was abstinent, I had to navigate a world where substances were in my face all the time. You know, when we think about, you know, a dry facility, what comes to mind is treatment centers. And the Okanagan needs better access to treatment centers. And I fully support like us petitioning for more treatment for people, because the wait lists are extraordinarily long. But when it comes to housing individuals, we need to give them autonomy to make their own decisions and learn from their choices and mistakes and successes, right? So one of the things I always strive to tell people is not allowing substance use in a shelter or a housing facility does not stop substance use. It creates unsafe substance use. So when people have to hide what they're doing because someone will not walk in those doors and say, I'm done with this and I'm ready, because that's medically not really feasible because of addiction, they will continue to use, but they'll use in secret. And when people use in secret, they die. Full stop. You know, overdose prevention sites, in the history of Canadian overdose prevention sites, there's only been one death ever has happened in an overdose prevention site. And that is a remarkable stat. Because when you know someone is having a medical emergency due to their substance use and you intervene right away, they will live. You know, the quicker we get breaths into someone who's overdosing, the less likely there is for brain damage. And because of the toxic drug crisis, we're seeing a lot of people having effects of you know, the ones that haven't died, you know, there's some brain damage effects. Like a lot of people have TBIs because of the toxic drug crisis. So, you know, it's important. This is what I, you know, always say to people. It does not stop people from using. It stops them from using safely. And when you don't use safely, you die. And I have lost so many people in my life through this work and in my personal life that didn't have to die. You know, I got out of, you know, using substances right before fentanyl kind of took hold. I probably wouldn't be here today because I was a functional member of society. I had my kids at home, but I used all day, every day, and I used in secret. And I would have died, you know, so it's, you know, reducing stigma and, you know, giving people the proper supports they need doesn't mean we're condoning it. It means we're accepting who they are. You know, the line in harm reduction is, you know, we meet them where they're at. I take that a step further, is we meet people where they're at, but we don't leave them there. We walk with them. And overdose prevention sites are a great opportunity to make connection points with people and talk about their next steps.
So what would you say to someone who maybe uses the word enable on this subject? I know, I saw your face, but yeah.
Well, we took hold of that term. Our tagline for our society is enabling people to live. Because the term enable means to give authority and power over to another person. And so what we aim to do is give people power and authority to change their life. And we do that by not judging them, by giving them the resources they need, and giving them compassion and love and building relationships with them.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think the topic of drug use and what is functional drug use versus not functional, and I think when we see people on the street and we see people in our society who have fallen through the cracks, I think we search for a justification. And it seems like drug use is one of those ones where it's so explainable and so pertinent in people's minds. But there's a lot of fear about that when it comes to needles and safe injection sites. What's some information that I think people are missing out on?
You know, one of the things that was beautiful when I you know, got sober and I entered this line of work, and you know, I had a big learning curve because I didn't use needles in my addiction. My addiction was very much different. My addiction was actually glorified. I used alcohol and cocaine. My addiction is glorified in media. And so when I started working with people who used, you know, needles and methamphetamines and all those things, I even said, but I wasn't as bad as you. And I had to, one of the residents that I was supporting said to me, but you get it because you feel hopeless all the time, don't you? And I said I did when I was in my addiction. I felt hopeless all the time. He's like, so you get it. It doesn't matter what we're using. You know, you felt the same things we feel. And it really took me, and I'm going to cry because like it really opened my eyes to this perspective that even I had internal judgments against people that I had to kind of learn about, and I had to remove my biases in order to do my work effectively and to be able to support people the way they deserved to be supported. Mm-hmm. Because if I felt that my addiction was somewhat better than theirs, how am I going to connect with them? How am I going to like show compassion? How am I going to walk this journey with them? Mm-hmm. So it was a really big learning experience for me to do that. And I see that all the time. We talk about people who use, you know, alcohol, and we put it in a different category, but from a shelter perspective, the most challenging residents I've had behaviorally are ones who use alcohol problematically. And I don't say that to judge them. I say that in a way to say we glorify a substance that is equally as damaging to someone, and we hold it to a different standard when we shouldn't. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm a firm believer in addiction is not the problem. It's the solution to the problem people have. It's their only solution they can think of. You know, for me, I had undiagnosed mental health, and I also had, you know, a lot of sexual trauma from a youth that I hadn't dealt with. And so substances were my solution to deal with it. I have better solutions now. Yeah.
I'm just often trying to like get in the shoes of people who are unhoused and imagining how cold it is and how alone, like what Wade was saying, of how people are looking at you like you're another, you're not even human. And I just look at that situation and I'm like, obviously I would try to use any escapism I could.
Yeah. It's also a tool, like women especially. A lot of women say that they don't want to use things like methamphetamines when they're unhoused. They do so they can stay up all night, so they don't get assaulted.
Wow.
You know, so it's a tool. It's not the best tool, but honestly, it's one of the only tools they have when they're unhoused. And that's the point. When we get them housed and they get out of survival mode and they can lock their door at night, well, automatically these women are probably going to stop, or at least reduce their use of methamphetamine because they don't have to be on high alert, right? So it really, the home is a tool to replace the substance use. And it might not happen overnight, and it might be a slower process for some than others. But I even in shelter, we see people come in and reduce their use. And this isn't, and it's still a chaotic environment in a shelter. Could you imagine if they're reducing their use, just having a roof over their head? What would happen when they have a lockable room that's all their own? It's very, you know, like it's a natural progression. People who use substances problematically, I can say personally, don't want to. They don't want to have to use things to feel better about whatever's going on for them.
So if we were going to enable people to use less, maybe we would want a tiny home situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's housing is harm reduction. A seatbelt is harm reduction. You know, we have a lot of harm reduction tools. You hear harm reduction, you think needles. Harm reduction is so much more than that. Harm reduction is a hot meal. Harm reduction is a shower. Harm reduction is, you know, having a close personal relationship with someone. A needle is the least used harm reduction tool we have. We use so many different things to support people to wellness.
I want to get on this point of some people had concerns about funding. They also felt as if you're going to spend any money, use it on a dry shelter, obviously with that stigma of drugs. But that's not really how our funding's working on this. Can you kind of
Excuse me, sorry.
maybe clarify where this funding's coming from? And it's not that we're not getting, it's not like we have to choose between tiny homes and a treatment center. It's really, the tiny homes is the solution that we have funding for.
Yeah, so, you know, to the best of my knowledge, the funding is coming from, you know, the Ministry of Housing.
Earth, yeah.
Yeah, and the Heart and Hearth program. So I 100% believe we need a treatment center in the South Okanagan, and I would be the first one to advocate for that and do whatever I can to get it. That comes from Ministry of Health. So if we want to look at like funding allocations, you know, it's not up to the Ministry of Housing to fund a health project. It is more expensive. It costs taxpayers exponentially more per year for an unhoused person than it does to have them housed. I don't know the exact number, but housing a person drastically decreases your bylaw costs, your RCMP costs, health costs. So you're actually, those tiny homes actually save taxpayers money. And people kind of struggle with that a little bit, but when someone is unhoused, they're going to be in an emergency room department 6, 10, 12 times a year, minimum. When they're housed and they have outreach services for health services, they go once, maybe twice, and they're not usually related to, you know, what we typically see unhoused people go to the health authority for, which is like wound care and broken bones and like that sort of thing, infections. So it actually is cheaper to house people, regardless of their substance use, than to keep them unhoused from a taxpayer perspective.
I'll provide a little like kind of background. It like this funding specifically is for what is seen colloquially as like dry or wet shelters, mainly because we need to have harm reduction on site, a safe injection site, I believe, or.
Yeah, I know that that's, you know, BC Housing typically, we have a BC Housing funded building in town here that is recovery focused. It's not something that we typically do, even from like a constitutional level. When a person pays rent and has a, you know, it'll be different with the tiny homes because it's not a lease agreement, it's a program agreement, but they are paying rent. So when you pay rent, nobody constitutionally can tell you what you consume in that home, as long as you're not breaking the law, which consuming substances is not illegal. So from a human rights perspective, you can't tell people they can't consume a legal substance in a home they pay rent in.
Most landlords don't come up to you and say, hey, you can't drink in your rental agreement.
Yeah. You can't get drunk and disrupt your neighbors and break your windows, for sure.
It's the same thing with these tiny homes.
Yeah.
If you do that, you're going to go back to shelter.
And especially because these tiny homes are a transitional home, and so they don't follow under the RTB, there's even more leeway for the operator to kind of move people out than you would in like an RTB situation.
What are the future directions you kind of have for your organization, and how can our Penticton community and 100 More Homes support as much as possible?
Yeah, like we are a new organization. We just started in 2021, so we're kind of we're still a baby and we're growing. You know, the goal of POPs was always to have full continuum of services, from, you know, supporting people who are street entrenched and using substances every day. We even want to support people all the way through to abstinence. Eventually, we do have a recovery support program that we is kind of just by community donations, but we drive people to treatment. We get them for clean clothes to take them to treatment. We help them with treatment applications. So we do, a lot of people have viewed our society as like, you know, the enablers. We're just like giving out needles and you know, all this stuff. People think we give out free drugs, but we don't have a budget for that. But
free drugs, like
we don't have that kind of money. But we do want to support people through that entire wellness continuum, and that's our goal. And we're just constantly looking for opportunities to educate the public on how we get people through that continuum. You know, so whenever people reach out and want to get involved, we always support it. We have events throughout the year, which are always great to attend. You can learn how to get, even like the first step, get naloxone training. It is the funnest thing to learn, and it is such a good tool. That is like the first thing everybody should do, because it is super scary when you walk upon someone and you don't know how to help them. And just having that confidence to know, if I come across someone in medical distress, I'll have the skills to save them. And it's such a beautiful thing. Like my teenage daughters know how to use naloxone because, you know, they go to parties.
Yeah.
You know, one day my daughter might save one of her friends' lives. So it's a beautiful thing to learn. It takes like an hour to learn. And it's just, anyone should do that.
Awesome. So future directions, what gives you hope?
What gives me hope?
Let's just finish on that. What gives you hope?
The people we serve give me hope. I'm going to tell one story and then I'm done. Okay, so where we were operating there, outside our gates, there was this like rocky kind of concretey area, and the residents asked if they could put a garden there. And I said, if you can grow things in that little earthy area that isn't earthy, go for it. They grew corn and flowers. They grew corn and they submitted it to the Armstrong IPE, and they won first prize in their little, like, so it was just beautiful, because this is how we're supposed to treat humans. We see this kind of thing that we don't think anything can grow out of, but we gave it love and attention, and they spent hours tilling the soil and all this sort of stuff and tending to these corn things. And they grew like first place corn because they gave attention and love, and they saw something in that dirt that nobody else saw. And I just think that is the best metaphor for what me and the society as a whole should treat people. Just because someone doesn't see something worthy in that doesn't mean with a little love and attention, there wouldn't be. You could prize winning people, just love and attention.
Prize winning people. I love that. Well, I'm proud and hopeful, but mostly proud that I get to work with you, and I don't know, grow prize-winning people in Penticton.
That's what we need to do.
That's what we have to do. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks. It was nice to meet you
Yes,
in
it's
person.
nice.
Yeah.